Captain Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty's Edge, watching the stars pass by through the main window. The cargo ship had been traveling through the Kepler corridor for 3 days now, and everything seemed normal. This was supposed to be a safe route between human colonies, one that merchant ships used all the time. Jack was a tall man with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes. He had spent 20 years in the military before becoming a cargo ship captain. His face told the story of too many battles and too many close calls with hostile aliens. At 48 years old, he had seen enough of the galaxy to know that trouble could come from anywhere. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Lisa Hayes, his second-in-command, sat at the navigation console. She was a former military officer like Jack, with short brown hair and quick eyes that missed nothing. She had been with him for 3 years, and he trusted her with his life. Pete Rodriguez worked at the engineering station, monitoring the ship's systems. He was a skilled engineer who could fix almost anything with whatever tools he had. His hands were always dirty from working on the ship, but he knew every bolt and wire on the Liberty's Edge. Amy Carter handled communications from her station, near the back of the bridge. She was young, maybe 25, but she was the best comm officer Jack had ever worked with. She could speak 6 alien languages and could make their old radio system work miracles. Dr. Ben Sullivan was down in the medical bay, checking their supplies. He was not just a doctor, but also a scientist who knew more about alien biology than most people in the human fleet. Jack had hired him 2 years ago, and he had already saved 3 crew members from alien diseases. The Liberty's Edge was not a big ship, but it was tough. It carried medical supplies, terraforming equipment, and other goods that the frontier colonies needed. The cargo hold was full of medicine and machinery bound for New Haven, a new human colony that was still being built. Jack liked his crew. They were all people he could count on. Most of them had military experience, which was important when you traveled through space. Even the safe routes could become dangerous very quickly. "Captain," Amy said from her station, "I'm getting a signal." Jack turned to look at her. "What kind of signal?" "It's a distress call, sir. Coming from about 2 million kilometers ahead of us." Jack frowned. Distress calls in space were always serious, but they could also be traps. Pirates and hostile aliens sometimes used fake distress signals to lure merchant ships into ambush. "Can you tell what kind of ship it is?" Jack asked. Amy worked at her controls for a moment. "It's coming from a Zephyrian vessel, Captain. The signal is weak, but it sounds like they're having engine problems." Jack felt a cold feeling in his stomach. The Zephyrians were an advanced alien race with powerful ships and superior technology. They looked down on humans as primitive creatures, who had barely learned to travel between stars. Most of the Zephyrians thought humans were not much smarter than animals. "Are you sure it's Zephyrian?" Jack asked. "Yes, sir. The signal pattern matches their standard distress frequency." Lisa looked up from her station. "Captain, what would a Zephyrian cruiser be doing in human space?" That was a good question. The Zephyrians usually stayed in their own territory. They had treaties with the human government, but they rarely traveled through human space. When they did, it was usually on official business with heavy escorts. "I don't know," Jack said. "But we have to respond to distress calls. It's space law." Pete turned from his engineering station. "Captain, I don't like this. Zephyrian ships almost never break down. Their technology is too advanced." Jack knew. Pete was right. Zephyrian ships were incredibly reliable. Their engines could run for decades without major repairs. If one of their ships was really in trouble, it would be very unusual. "Amy, try to raise them on the radio," Jack ordered. Amy worked at her controls for several minutes. "I'm not getting any response, Captain. The distress signal is automated, but no one is answering my calls." Jack thought about their options. They could ignore the signal and continue to New Haven, but that would violate space law. All ships were required to help vessels in distress, regardless of what species they belonged to. If word got out that a human ship had ignored a distress call, it could cause serious problems with the alien governments. On the other hand, this could be a trap. Jack had fought Zephyrians during his military service, and he knew they were dangerous enemies. They were stronger and faster than humans, and their weapons were far more advanced. "Lisa, what do our sensors show?" Jack asked. Lisa checked her displays. "There's definitely a ship out there, Captain. It's big, probably a heavy cruiser. I'm reading some energy fluctuations that could be engine problems." "Could be?" Jack repeated. "Or could be something else." He made his decision. "Amy, send a message. Tell them we're responding to their distress call and will arrive in 30 minutes. "Yes, sir." Jack turned to Pete. "I want you to run a full diagnostic on all our systems. Make sure everything is working perfectly." "Already on it, Captain." "Lisa, plot a course that keeps us at maximum sensor range until we know what we're dealing with." Understood." Jack walked to the center of the bridge and activated the ship's intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. We're responding to a distress call from an alien vessel. I want everyone at their stations and ready for anything. This is not a drill." The Liberty's Edge changed course and began moving toward the unknown ship. Jack watched the stars shift as they turned, and he felt the familiar tension that came before trouble. His instincts were telling him that something was wrong, but he could not ignore a distress call. 20 minutes later, Amy looked up from her station with a worried expression. "Captain, I'm getting better readings on that ship now." "What do you see?" "It's definitely a Zephyrian heavy cruiser." "But Captain, the energy readings don't match engine problems." "It looks like their weapons and shields are fully operational." Jack felt his blood run cold. A Zephyrian cruiser with working weapons was not a ship in distress. It was a predator waiting for prey. "Lisa, can we turn around without them noticing?" Lisa checked her sensors. "Too late, Captain. They're powering up their engines and turning toward us." Pete looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy spikes from their ship. Those are weapons charging, not engines failing." Jack realized they had walked into a trap. The Zephyrians had used a fake distress signal to lure them in, and now they were too close to escape. A heavy cruiser could easily outrun and outgun a cargo ship like the Liberty's Edge. "Red alert," Jack ordered. "All hands to battle stations." The bridge lights dimmed and emergency lighting came on. Throughout the ship, his crew rushed to their positions. Jack knew they were outmatched, but he was not going to surrender without a fight. "Captain," Amy said, "they're hailing us." "Put it on screen." The main display showed the bridge of the Zephyrian ship. The aliens were tall, thin creatures with pale skin and large black eyes. They wore elaborate uniforms that showed their rank and status. The one in the center was clearly the commander. "Human vessel," the alien said in accented English. "You will surrender immediately. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded." Jack stepped forward. "This is Captain Morrison of the Liberty's Edge. You sent a distress signal. Do you need assistance?" The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "We need nothing from primitive creatures like you. You will surrender now, or we will take your ship by force." Jack realized this was exactly what he had feared. The Zephyrians were not in distress. They were hunting human ships for reasons he did not understand yet. But he knew one thing for certain. He was not going to let them take his ship or his crew without a fight. The Zephyrian commander on the screen looked at Jack with cold, dark eyes. His name was War Leader Kethver, and he commanded one of the most powerful ships in the Zephyrian fleet. He had been hunting human vessels for 3 months, capturing crews for his scientists to study. "You humans are such simple creatures," Kethver said, his voice filled with disgust. "You actually believed our distress signal. Your species is too trusting and too stupid to survive in this galaxy." Jack kept his face calm, but inside he was thinking fast. He had fought Zephyrians before during his military service. They were dangerous enemies, but they had weaknesses. They were arrogant and believed they were superior to all other species. This made them careless sometimes. "What do you want?" Jack asked. "We want your crew," Kethver replied. "Our scientists need live human specimens for their research. You will make excellent test subjects." Lisa stepped up beside Jack. You're talking about kidnapping and murder. Kethfer made that laughing sound again. Murder? You cannot murder animals. You are barely more intelligent than the creatures that crawl in the dirt on your homeworld. Jack felt anger rise in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. Getting angry would not help his crew. He needed to think and plan. And if we refuse? Jack asked. Then we will take your ship by force, Kethfer said. My warriors are already preparing to board your vessel. You have primitive weapons and weak armor. Resistance will only make your deaths more painful. The alien commander gestured to someone off-screen. Suddenly, the Liberty's edge shook violently. Warning lights flashed on every console as the ship's systems began to fail. Electromagnetic pulse, Pete shouted from his station. They've hit us with an EMP weapon. Main power is down, shields are offline, and weapons are not responding. Jack watched his ship's systems fail one by one. The Zephyrians had used a weapon that sent out powerful electromagnetic energy, destroying electronic circuits and computer systems. It was a clean way to disable a ship without destroying it completely. Emergency power only, Lisa reported. We have basic life support and some lighting, but that's all. Amy tried her communications equipment. Radio is dead, Captain. I can't send any messages. Jack nodded. This was exactly what he had expected. The Zephyrians wanted to capture them alive, so they had used a weapon that would disable the ship without killing the crew. But Jack had been preparing for this possibility. Pete, how long until you can get main power back online? Jack asked quietly. Pete looked at his dead controls. At least 2 hours, Captain, maybe more. Jack smiled slightly. That's what I hoped you would say. Lisa looked at him with confusion. Captain? Trust me, Jack said. Then he turned back to the screen where Kethfer was waiting. We surrender, Jack said. Don't hurt my crew. Kethfer looked pleased. A wise decision. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. Our shields are already down, Jack said. Your EMP weapon destroyed our defensive systems. Excellent. My boarding party will arrive in 10 minutes. Do not try to resist, or we will kill you slowly. The screen went dark. Jack immediately turned to his crew. Listen carefully, he said in a low voice. This is not a real surrender. We're going to fight, but we need to be smart about it. Pete looked worried. Captain, they disabled our weapons. How can we fight a Zephyrian boarding party? Jack walked to a control panel and opened a hidden compartment. Inside were several small devices that looked like backup power units. Pete, remember those modifications you've been working on for the past 2 months? Jack asked. Pete's eyes widened. You mean the hidden systems? Exactly. Amy, you remember those communication upgrades you installed? Amy nodded. The ones that look like regular radio equipment but can actually hack into alien computer systems? Right. And Lisa, you remember all those combat drills we've been running? Lisa smiled grimly. The ones where we practiced fighting in the ship's corridors using improvised weapons. Jack nodded. Dr. Sullivan is already preparing his special medical supplies. We've been getting ready for this for months. The truth was that Jack had been expecting something like this to happen. During his military service, he had learned that Zephyrians sometimes captured human crews for experiments. He had also learned that they were overconfident and predictable in their tactics. But Captain, Amy said, they think we're just a cargo ship with a merchant crew. That's exactly what we want them to think, Jack replied. They see us as weak, animals that won't fight back. That's going to be their mistake. Jack had carefully chosen his crew. Lisa was a former military officer who had fought in 3 different wars. Pete was not just an engineer but also a demolitions expert. Amy had worked for military intelligence before joining his crew. Dr. Sullivan had studied alien biology and knew how to use that knowledge as a weapon. Pete, can you activate the hidden systems without main power? Jack asked. Pete grinned. Already working on it, Captain. I installed backup batteries for exactly this situation. Good, Amy. Can you tap into their communications? Amy was already working at a small device she had pulled from under her console. Give me 5 minutes, Captain. Jack turned to Lisa. Get the crew ready. Everyone knows their positions? Yes, sir. We've practiced this scenario dozens of times. Then Jack walked to the bridge window and looked out at the Zephyrian cruiser. It was a massive ship, at least 10 times larger than the Liberty's Edge. Its hull was covered with weapons and armor that could destroy a dozen human ships. But size and power were not everything in combat. Captain, Pete said, backup power is online for the hidden systems. They won't detect them because they're shielded and use different frequencies. Excellent. Amy, any luck with their communications? Amy looked up with a smile. I'm in, Captain. They're using standard Zephyrian military frequencies. I can hear everything they're saying. Jack listened as Amy translated the alien conversations. The Zephyrians were discussing how to capture the human crew without damaging them too much. They wanted live specimens for their experiments. They're sending 12 warriors, Amy reported. They think that's more than enough to capture a cargo ship crew. Jack almost laughed. 12 warriors against 12 humans might seem like even odds, but the Zephyrians had no idea what they were walking into. They'll board through the main cargo bay, Amy continued. Their leader is someone called Subcommander Velthor. Jack knew that name. Velthor was a famous Zephyrian warrior who had never lost a battle. He was strong, fast, and skilled with their advanced weapons. He was also arrogant and believed that humans were too weak to pose any real threat. Perfect, Jack said. Lisa, make sure everyone is in position. Lisa spoke into her communicator. All stations, this is the bridge. Execute Plan Alpha. Repeat, execute Plan Alpha. Throughout the ship, Jack's crew moved to their hidden positions. To any observer, it would look like they were simply cowering in their quarters, waiting to be captured. But they were actually preparing for war. Captain, Dr. Sullivan's voice came through the intercom. Medical supplies are ready. Jack smiled. Dr. Sullivan's medical supplies included several chemical compounds that would affect Zephyrian biology in very unpleasant ways. The aliens had no idea that humans had been studying their weaknesses for years. Amy, are you ready to disrupt their communications? Jack asked. Yes, sir. I can feed them false information and jam their signals to their ship. Pete, weapons? All hidden systems are armed and ready, Captain. They'll get a big surprise. Jack looked out at the enemy ship again. In a few minutes, the Zephyrians would board his vessel expecting to find helpless prisoners. Instead, they would find something much more dangerous, humans who were ready to fight. Remember, Jack said too. His crew, they think we're animals. Let's show them what kind of animals we really are. The Zephyrian boarding shuttle attached to the Liberty's Edge with a loud clang. Sub-Commander Velthor led his team of 12 warriors through the airlock and into the cargo bay. Each warrior was 7 feet tall with pale skin and black eyes. I could see in the dark. They wore advanced armor that could stop most human weapons, and they carried energy rifles that could burn through metal. Velthor looked around the cargo bay with disgust. The human ship was old and dirty compared to Zephyrian vessels. The walls were covered with rust, and the air smelled of oil and sweat. These primitive creatures lived like animals, he thought. Spread out, Velthor ordered his warriors. Find the humans and bring them to me alive. Try not to damage them too much. The scientists need fresh specimens. The warriors moved through the cargo bay, their weapons ready. They expected to find frightened humans hiding behind boxes and machinery. Instead, they found something much different. The first warrior to die never saw what hit him. A hidden panel in the wall opened, and Pete Rodriguez fired a modified mining laser that cut through the alien's armor like paper. The warrior fell to the ground, his chest burning. Ambush! Velthor shouted, but it was too late. Hidden weapon systems activated all around the cargo bay. Pete had spent months installing them in secret, disguising them as ordinary ship equipment. Automated turrets dropped from the ceiling and began firing at the Zephyrian warriors. The aliens scattered, looking for cover, but the weapons were just the beginning. Jack had planned this battle carefully, using everything he knew about Zephyrian tactics and psychology. The aliens were used to fighting in open space or on planets where they could use their superior technology. They were not prepared for close combat inside a human ship. Lisa Hayes crawled through the maintenance tunnels above the cargo bay, carrying a bag of improvised weapons. She had been a commando during her military service, and she knew how to fight in tight spaces. She dropped through a ventilation grate behind two Zephyrian warriors and attacked them with a shock rod that Pete had modified to deliver enough electricity to stun an alien. The first warrior turned just in time to see Lisa's weapon hit his chest. The electricity overloaded his armor systems, and he collapsed. The second warrior raised his rifle, but Lisa was already moving. She rolled behind a crate and threw a flash grenade that Pete had made from ship supplies. The grenade exploded, with a bright light that temporarily blinded the Zephyrians. Their eyes were more sensitive than human eyes, and the sudden flash left them unable to see. Lisa used this advantage to attack the second warrior, hitting him in the neck with her shock rod. Meanwhile, Amy Carter was working at her hidden communication station. She had tapped into the Zephyrian frequency and was feeding false information to their ship. When Velther tried to call for help, Amy made it sound like everything was going according to plan. "Status report," came Kethver's voice from the cruiser. Amy changed her voice to sound like Velther. "All is well, War Leader. The humans are surrendering as expected." But things were not going well for the Zephyrians. Dr. Sullivan had prepared special chemical weapons that he released through the ship's air system. The chemicals did not hurt humans, but they made the aliens sick and confused. The Zephyrians began to cough and struggle to breathe. "What is this?" one warrior gasped as he fell to his knees. "It's something we learned from studying your biology," came Jack's voice from the shadows. "We know exactly how your bodies work, and we know how to stop them." Jack appeared behind another warrior, moving silently through the cargo bay. He had painted his face black and wore dark clothing that made him almost invisible in the dim light. In his hands, he carried a weapon that looked like a simple metal rod, but it was actually a high-powered stun device. The Zephyrian warrior turned to face Jack, raising his energy rifle. But Jack was faster. He had been fighting for his life since he was 18 years old, and he knew how to move in combat. He rolled to the side as the alien fired, then struck the warrior in the chest with his stun rod. The alien's armor sparked and failed. The warrior collapsed, his nervous system overloaded by the electrical charge. Jack had learned that Zephyrian armor was designed to stop energy weapons and bullets, but it was not very good at stopping electrical attacks. "Velther," Jack called out, "your warriors are falling one by one. Maybe humans are not as primitive as you thought." Velther was furious. Half of his warriors were already down, and the others were struggling against enemies they could barely see. The humans were fighting like ghosts, appearing from nowhere and disappearing just as quickly. "Show yourselves, cowards!" Velther shouted. "We're not cowards," Lisa's voice came from the ventilation system above. "We're just smarter than you." Pete Rodriguez appeared on the other side of the cargo bay, carrying a device that looked like a welding torch. But instead of welding metal, it shot a stream of superheated plasma that could melt through Zephyrian armor. "You want to see primitive?" Pete shouted as he fired at two warriors. "This is what we call primitive human engineering." The plasma stream hit the first warrior's armor and melted through it instantly. The alien screamed as the heat burned his skin. The second warrior tried to return fire, but Pete had already ducked behind a cargo container. The Zephyrians were learning that human ships were not built like their own vessels. Every corridor, every room, every piece of equipment could be turned into a weapon or a hiding place. The humans knew their ship better than the aliens could ever imagine. Dr. Sullivan entered the cargo bay carrying what looked like a medical scanner. But when he pointed it at a Zephyrian warrior, the device released a high-frequency sound that made the alien's sensitive ears bleed. The warrior dropped his weapon and fell to the ground, clutching his head in pain. "Biological warfare, Doctor," Sullivan said calmly. "We've been studying your species for years." Amy's voice came through the ship's intercom system, but now she was speaking in perfect Zephyrian. "Your war leader has abandoned you," she lied. "He is retreating to save himself." This was not true, but the Zephyrian warriors believed it. Their Morale began to break as they realized they were trapped on an enemy ship with no way to escape. Velthor realized that his mission was failing. These humans were not the simple creatures he had expected. They fought with intelligence and cunning, using every advantage they could find. They knew his species' weaknesses and had prepared specifically to fight Zephyrians. "You think you have won?" Velthor called out. "I am Sub-Commander Velthor. I have never been defeated in battle." Jack stepped out of the shadows, his stun rod. "Ready? There's always a first time," he said. Velthor raised his energy rifle and fired at Jack, but Jack was ready. He had been watching the alien commander and knew his attack patterns. Jack rolled to the side and came up behind a piece of machinery. "You cannot hide forever, human," Velthor shouted. "I'm not hiding," Jack replied. "I'm hunting." The two enemies began to circle each other through the cargo bay. Velthor was stronger and faster, but Jack knew the terrain. Every box, every pipe, every piece of equipment was a potential weapon or shield. Lisa appeared above them, hanging from the ceiling by a cable. "Jack, behind you!" she warned. Jack spun around just in time to see another Zephyrian warrior trying to attack him from behind. He struck the alien with his stun rod, and the warrior fell unconscious. "Thanks," Jack said to Lisa. "Anytime, Captain." The battle was almost over. Most of the Zephyrian warriors were down, and the few who remained were sick from Dr. Sullivan's chemicals. But Velthor was still fighting, and he was the most dangerous enemy of all. "Your species will pay for this insult," Velthor shouted. As he continued to hunt Jack through the cargo bay, Jack smiled grimly. "We'll see about that." The cargo bay was now a battlefield covered with fallen Zephyrian warriors. Only 3 aliens remained standing, including Sub-Commander Velthor. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burned metal. Jack's crew had proven that humans were far from helpless. Velthor looked around at his defeated warriors with growing horror. These were elite soldiers who had conquered entire planets. They had never lost a battle against any enemy. Yet here they were, beaten by a small crew of human merchants. "This is impossible," Velthor whispered to himself. "They are just primitive animals," but Jack heard him. "That's your first mistake," Jack said, stepping out from behind a cargo container. "You keep thinking we're animals. We're not. We're predators." The 2 remaining Zephyrian warriors tried to flank Jack from both sides, but Lisa was ready for them. She dropped from the ceiling behind one warrior and hit him with her shock rod. The alien's armor sparked and failed, and he collapsed to the floor. Pete appeared from a maintenance hatch and fired his plasma torch at the other warrior. The superheated beam melted through the alien's weapon, and Dr. Sullivan followed up with his sonic device. The warrior fell to his knees, clutching his bleeding ears. Now only Velthor remained standing. He was the strongest and most skilled of the boarding party, but he was also alone and surrounded by enemies who had already proven they could defeat his kind. "You have not won yet," Velthor snarled. "I challenge your leader to single combat." Jack smiled coldly. "You want to fight me alone? Fine, but not here. Let's go somewhere more interesting." Jack began walking toward the cargo bay exit, heading deeper into the ship. Velthor followed, his energy rifle ready. The alien was confident that he could defeat any human in personal combat. He was bigger, stronger, and faster than any human could be. They walked through the ship's corridors, past the crew quarters, and the medical bay. Jack was leading Velthor to the engineering section, where the ship's power systems and heavy machinery were located. This was where Jack wanted to fight. "Why do you run, human?" Velthor called out. "Are you afraid to face me? I'm not running," Jack replied. "I'm choosing the battlefield." They entered the engineering section, a large room filled with pipes, electrical systems, and heavy machinery. The air was hot and humid, and the sound of the ship's engines was much louder here. Steam hissed from broken pipes and electrical. Sparks flew from damaged circuits. "This is where we settle it," Jack said, turning to face Velthor. The alien commander looked around the room with disgust. "You want to fight in this dirty place? Very well, it will be your tomb." Velthor raised his energy rifle and fired at Jack, but Jack was already moving. He rolled behind a large pipe as the energy beam hit the wall where he had been standing. The metal glowed red-hot from the impact. "You cannot hide forever!" Velther shouted, advancing into the room. Jack was not hiding. He was using the environment to his advantage. He knew every inch of his ship, every pipe and wire and piece of machinery. This was his territory, and he intended to use it. Jack grabbed a length of heavy cable and swung it at Velther's legs. The alien jumped over the cable, but Jack was ready for that. He hit a control button and steam erupted from a broken pipe. Right where Velther landed, the superheated steam made the alien stumble and cry out in pain. His armor protected him from the worst of it, but the heat was still enough to hurt him. Jack used this distraction to attack. He picked up a heavy wrench and threw it at Velther's head. The alien ducked, but the wrench hit his rifle and knocked it from his hands. The weapon clattered across the floor and slid under a piece of machinery. "Now we fight as equals," Jack said, pulling out his stun rod. Velther drew a curved blade from his belt. The weapon was made from some alien metal that glowed with its own light. "I do not need a rifle to kill you, human." The two enemies circled each other in the hot, noisy engineering room. Velther was taller and stronger, but Jack was more experienced. He had been fighting for 30 years, and he knew how to use every advantage he could find. Velther struck first, his blade cutting through the air where Jack's head had been. But Jack ducked and rolled, coming up behind a control panel. He hit a button, and the lights in the room went out. The engineering section was now lit only by the glow of the ship's instruments and the sparks from damaged electrical systems. The shadows danced and shifted, making it hard to see clearly. "Coward!" Velther shouted. "You fight like a frightened animal?" "I fight like a human," Jack replied from the darkness. "We use our brains, not just our muscles." Jack knew that Zephyrian eyes were better in the dark than human eyes, but they were also more sensitive to sudden changes in light. He had a plan for that. He worked his way around the room, using the machinery for cover. When he was in position, he activated a welding torch that Pete had left behind. The bright flame lit up the room like lightning. Velther cried out and covered his eyes. The sudden light was painful for him, and he could not see for several seconds. Jack used this advantage to attack. He hit Velther with his stun rod, but the alien's armor absorbed most of the electrical charge. Velther swung his blade wildly, trying to hit Jack even though he could not see clearly. The blade missed Jack by inches and hit an electrical conduit instead. Sparks flew everywhere, and the ship's lights flickered. The damaged conduit began to leak electricity, creating a dangerous hazard. "You are destroying your own ship," Velther shouted. "It's my ship," Jack replied. "I know how to fix it." Jack grabbed a fire extinguisher and sprayed it at Velther. The foam was not dangerous, but it made the floor slippery and got into the alien's eyes. Velther stumbled and fell, his blade sliding away from him. Jack jumped on the fallen alien, trying to use his stun rod again. But Velther was too strong. He grabbed Jack and threw him across the room. Jack hit a pipe and fell to the floor. Stunned, Velther got to his feet and retrieved his blade. "You fought well for a primitive creature," he said, "but now you die." Jack looked up at the alien commander standing over him. Velther raised his blade, ready to strike the killing blow. But Jack was not finished yet. He reached up and grabbed a loose electrical cable that was sparking with power. When Velther's blade came down, Jack touched the cable to the alien's armor. The electricity flowed through the metal blade into Velther's body. The alien's armor, which was designed to protect him, now became a conductor for the electrical current. Velther screamed and shook as thousands of volts flowed through him. Jack rolled away as Velther collapsed, his armor smoking and sparking. The alien was not dead, but he was badly hurt and could not move. "That's the difference between us," Jack said, standing over the defeated alien. "You rely on your technology. We learn to use whatever we can find." Meanwhile, Amy had been working at her communication station. She had not only been jamming the Zephyrian signals, but she had also been learning how to control their ship's systems. Human computer technology was different from Zephyrian technology, but the basic principles were the same. "Captain," Amy's voice came through the intercom. I've got good news. I've broken into their ship's computer system. Jack smiled. What can you do with it? I can control their shields, weapons, and engines. They have no idea that I'm in there. System. This was exactly what Jack had hoped for. The Zephyrians thought they were the superior species, but they had made a fatal mistake. They had underestimated human intelligence and determination. Pete, can you get our main power back online? Jack asked. Already working on it, Captain. Give me 10 minutes. Jack looked down at Velther, who was struggling to get up. The aliens. Armor was damaged, and his body was still shaking from the electrical shock. You have lost, Jack said. But this is just the beginning. Jack stood over the defeated Sub-Commander Velther in the engineering room. The alien warrior was alive but badly injured. His advanced armor was smoking and damaged, and he could barely move. All around them, the other Zephyrian boarders lay. Unconscious or dead? Pete, how's that power coming? Jack asked into his communicator. Almost there, Captain, Pete's voice replied. Main power will be online in 2 minutes. Jack looked down at Velther. You made a big mistake coming here. You thought we were just animals you could capture and experiment on? Velther tried to speak, but his voice was weak. This changes nothing. War Leader Kethver will destroy your ship. You cannot defeat a Zephyrian cruiser, Jack smiled. We'll see about that. Amy, are you still connected to their ship? Amy's voice came through the intercom. Yes, Captain. I have complete control of their computer systems. They still don't know I'm in there. Excellent, Lisa. Gather the crew on the bridge. It's time to have a conversation with War Leader Kethver. Jack made his way back to the bridge. Leaving the defeated aliens in the cargo bay, Dr. Sullivan and 2 other crew members were already securing the prisoners and treating their injuries. Even though the Zephyrians had tried to capture them for experiments, Jack would not kill helpless enemies. When Jack reached the bridge, Pete was just finishing the power restoration. The lights came back on and all the ship's systems began working again. But now they had something extra, complete access to the Zephyrian cruiser's computer network. Amy, open a channel to their ship, Jack ordered. And make sure this conversation reaches their entire fleet. Amy worked at her controls. Channel open, Captain. I'm also broadcasting this to every Zephyrian ship within 50 light years. The main screen lit up, showing War Leader Kethver on the bridge of his cruiser. The alien commander looked confident and arrogant. He expected to see his boarding party with captured humans. Sub-Commander Velther, Kethver said, report your status. Velther is my prisoner, Jack said, stepping into view of the camera, along with the rest of your boarding party. Kethver's black eyes widened with shock. Impossible. You are just primitive creatures. You cannot defeat Zephyrian warriors. We just did, Jack replied calmly. Your warriors are alive, but they won't be bothering anyone for a while. The alien commander's face filled with rage. You will pay for this insult. I will destroy your ship and everyone on it. You can try, Jack said. But first, let me tell you something about humans that you don't understand. Jack walked closer to the camera. You think we're primitive because our technology isn't as advanced as yours. You think we're weak because we don't have your physical strength. But you're wrong about what makes us dangerous. Kethver laughed. What could possibly make your pathetic species dangerous to us? Our history, Jack said. Amy, show him the files. Amy had prepared a collection of videos from Earth's history. Images of human wars, battles, and conflicts filled the screen. Kethver watched in growing horror as he saw humans fighting with incredible brutality and determination. This is what we do to each other, Jack explained. For thousands of years, we've been perfecting the art of warfare. We fought with swords, guns, bombs, and anything else we could find. We've studied every possible way to kill and survive. The videos showed human soldiers in different time periods, from ancient battles to modern warfare. They showed the creativity and ruthlessness that humans brought to combat. We are a species that evolved on a death world, Jack continued. Everything on our planet tried to kill us, so we learned to kill everything else. We are predators who became the apex species on our world by being smarter, more adaptable, and more vicious than anything else. Kethver was silent, staring at the images of human warfare. But that's not the worst part, Jack said. The worst part is that we've been watching you. We've been studying every alien species we've encountered. We know your weaknesses, your tactics, and your technology. We've been preparing. Amy switched the display to show technical diagrams of Zephyrian ships and weapons. The aliens' most closely guarded military secrets were displayed for all to see. How did you get this information? Kethver demanded. We stole it, Jack said simply. We hacked your computers, bribed your officials, and captured your equipment. We've been doing it for years. Every time you thought you were dealing with primitive humans, we were learning from you. The truth was that Earth's government had been running a massive intelligence operation against all alien species. While appearing weak and harmless, human agents had been gathering information and preparing for exactly this kind of situation. You see, Jack continued, humans have one advantage that your species lacks. We're really good at pretending to be something we're not. You thought we were weak cargo haulers, but we're actually trained soldiers. You thought our ship was defenseless, but it was actually a disguised weapons platform. Pete appeared on screen beside Jack. Every human ship has hidden weapons and defenses. We've been ready for war since the day we met you. Dr. Sullivan joined them. We've also been studying your biology. We know exactly how to hurt you, heal you, or control you. Your bodies have no secrets from us. Lisa stepped into view. And we've been training for combat in every possible environment. We know how to fight in space, on planets, and inside ships. We're ready for anything. Kethver was beginning to understand the magnitude of his mistake. You're saying that your entire species has been deceiving us? Not just you, Jack said. Every alien species in the galaxy. We let everyone think we're primitive and harmless while we prepare for the day when someone tries to hurt us. Amy activated another program, and suddenly the Zephyrian cruiser's weapons systems shut down. The ship's shields flickered and failed. Emergency lights began flashing on Kethver's bridge. What are you doing to my ship? Kethver shouted. Proving a point, Jack replied. Your technology isn't superior if we can control it. Amy, show him how deep we've penetrated their systems. Amy displayed the Zephyrian ship's entire computer network on screen. She had access to everything: weapons, engines, life support, and communications. She could control the ship better than its own crew. We could destroy your ship right now. Jack said, we could turn off your life support, overload your engines, or turn your own weapons against you. But we're not going to do that. Kethver looked confused. Why not? Because we want you to deliver a message, Jack explained. Go back to your people and tell them what you learned here. Tell them that humans are not the weak species you thought we were. We are hunters who have been hiding our true nature. Jack walked closer to the camera again. Tell them that we know about the experiments on captured human crews. Tell them that we know about every hostile act your species has committed against ours. And tell them that we remember everything. The images on screen changed to show other human ships that looked like simple cargo vessels or passenger transports. But now Kethver could see the hidden weapons and advanced systems that each ship carried. Every human ship in space is a potential warship, Jack said. Every human colony is a fortress. Every human crew is a trained military unit. We've been preparing for war while pretending to be peaceful traders. Jack's voice grew cold and threatening. So here's your choice, War Leader Kethver. You can spread the word that humans are dangerous and should be left alone. Or you can try to fight us and learn what happens when you threaten a species that has spent its entire existence perfecting the art of survival. Amy restored power to the Zephyrian ship's engines and basic systems. We're letting you go, she announced, but we'll be watching you. If any human ship is attacked by Zephyrians again, we'll know about it. Kethver stared at the screen for a long moment. His entire understanding of humans had been shattered. The species he had considered barely intelligent animals had revealed themselves to be sophisticated predators who had been manipulating the entire galaxy. I will deliver your message, Kethver said finally. His voice was filled with fear and Respect that had not been there before. Good, Jack said. And Kethver, release all the human prisoners you've taken. All of them, or the next conversation we have won't be so friendly. The screen went dark as the Zephyrian cruiser began to retreat. Jack watched through the bridge window as the massive alien ship turned and flew away, carrying news that would change everything. Captain, Lisa said, do you think they'll leave us alone now? Jack smiled grimly. Some will. Others will want to test us, but now they know what they're really facing. He turned to his crew. Good work, everyone. We've just announced to the galaxy that humanity is not what it appears to be. Things are going to get very interesting from here. The Liberty's Edge resumed its course to New Haven, but everything had changed. The secret was out. Humanity had revealed its true nature to the galaxy, and there was no going back. In the cargo bay, Sub-Commander Velther slowly regained consciousness. He looked around at his defeated warriors and understood that his species had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened something that should have been left sleeping. Humans were not animals to be hunted. They were apex predators who had been waiting for someone to give them a reason to show their true nature. And now the entire galaxy would learn to fear them.